Hello, and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of April 6th, 2015. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old members. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it right. So yes, please send it to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and it is the best way to get the most out of the site. I wanted to start today by doing just a little bit of a reminder. I have been going back and forth between the house and the office, and doing a lot of game development and working on my laptop when I do game dev. And my laptop, I have a wireless mouse. And I've been doing that so much that my wrist is really starting to flare up. And on my computer at work, I have the Wacom tablet, and out of habit, I have been using a mouse on my work computer as well as my laptop. And this is terrible. This is terrible for me. It's terrible for you. It's terrible for everybody. Okay? We cannot let it slip, because what happens is once you get to a certain point, the only thing you can do is rest it with your wrists. No amount of stretching beforehand or gearing yourself up will prevent it from getting worse and worse and worse if you keep on doing it. So you get to a certain point and you're cooked, pal, and you just have to rest it. So thankfully, I'm being much more conscious now, and I've recommitted myself to ergonomics. I'd like you to as well. All right. So we're actually just going to take a minute together to do my favorite wrist stretch, which is to put your arm behind you. Okay. Rotate it up and outwards as much as you can. All right, and hold it there. And bend that arm, and then scratch the sky and make little fists. And what you'll find is that your forearm muscle, because it's being untwisted, it's actually stretching way better than any of this or any of this. You might feel this more, but this is actually stretching the muscles the way that they're kind of meant to, because it's untwisting that muscle. Okay, so I'm just going to do this for a minute, and I encourage you, let's just all do this right now together. Just take 60 seconds out of our life. Okay, shake it out. Let's do the other one. Just rotate it up and out as much as you can. And then move all your fingers, make a little fist. Okay? If you hear little pops, that's okay too. All right? Shake it out, and then if you'd like to gently stretch it this way, that's fine too. These don't do nearly as much, but they feel good afterwards. Okay? So, taking ergonomics seriously again. Okay? Let's look at this week's question. It's a great question. Thank you for sending that one in. So, for walk cycles, I have such a fast walk cycle method that involves finding the stride length and then dialing it all in, putting your animation in basically how you know it's going to be in there, and then offsetting it. That I don't think that any other approach than that could possibly be faster. So once you get to that point, whether you do the stride length, get the cog moving, and then get all the way to the point where the cog is transversing in Z with the feet accurately, the up and down in Y is working, a little bit of rotation in the hips and spine. Whether from that point using actual Maya animation layers or just continuing to layer in the animation is faster is kind of up to you. It's kind of up to practice. Okay, it'll come down to how many of these you've done before, and it'll be shot by shot specific as well. If they're just standing and walking, if two people are like just walking next to each other and they're having a conversation, and there's mostly this walk cycle happening, and then maybe it's like a little turn and like an agreement like that, but for the most part it's just this walking happening. I would say that animation layers are not necessary for that. The great thing about animation layers is that you can take animation that is wildly outside of the parameters, the norm of that cycle, and then dial it in and then take it back. So it's great for instance, you can actually extract movement and put it on its own layer. Pardon me. And I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. It's great for, like, let's say taking just like the torso. If at one point they're walking and then the person like turns to them like this and then turns back, it's great for muting the animation on certain parts and dialing something else in and then coming back to it. That's what animation layers are I've found are actually really good for. But if you have a scene that is pretty simplistic, it sounds like just a walk cycle with a little bit of stuff on top of it, probably if you're using the walk cycle workflow that I've done and I've shown you in many lectures so far, you probably are better off just continuing to kind of like go as you were anyway. Okay, so that's kind of the short answer. But let me show you just one feature of how animation layers work that might make this easier if you wanted to use this approach. Okay, so I'm going to show you something here. So let me just make a simple hierarchy. This is just one ball is parented to another. Okay, so this one is going to move up and then down. Okay, like that. Let's make it 48 frames. All right. And then between 19 and 35, it does nothing. Let's make it move up and then back down again. Let me just copy this to the end. Okay. So it moves up and then down, and then up and then down. All right. This one, this little one, is along for the ride. Okay. But it moves left and then back again. But it's constantly doing this. Okay. So I'm just copying this over and over. So check this out. So it's going left and back again the whole time. Okay? So right now, none of this animation is on layers because I kind of just did this all right now, right? And so if you go to animation layers, there is no layer. Okay? So the way animation layers work is the weight is how much the is how much the influence of the movement that you have is on there. Okay. Excuse me. So if you go into layers and you go extract non-layered animation for selected objects, what that means is that on this layer now, on a new animation layer, is everything that was on here. Okay? And why that's good is because if I want to do some animation between 19 and 35, where this thing is not moving anymore, then I can actually key the weight right here. Let's key the weight and then weigh it down to 0, and then at 35 key it and key the weight back up to 1. Okay, now it's going to pop because I didn't actually plan when this was going to happen, but actually, you know what, why make it pop? Let's do this. Key this. Have to go into the animation weight. Let's actually make it fade up. Why not? Fade up and down again. But suffice it to say, now the animation is fading back down, and between 19 and 35, I've muted basically that animation. Okay. Now on a new layer, boop, I can call this, you know, sometimes it's good to actually keep your stuff organized. I know you can't see this. I forgot to change the scale of my monitor again. I really apologize. I gotta start remembering to do that. Call this 19 to 35. Upper ball, you know, stay organized. Oh, you can't, hold on. You have to start with a letter. Upper ball underscore 19 underscore 35. You can't start with a number. Forgot about that. All right, so now on this new layer, there's no animation. And now, between 19 and 35, I'm going to make it go up and then back down. In fact, let me just copy that key because there's 0 animation on there. Okay? So here we have our animation now. All right? This one is going up and then down to 19, and then on 35 it does it one more time. This one, on the base animation layer that I extracted to the second layer, on the base animation layer, it was going left, right, over and over and over. But I muted it from 19 to 35, and then between 19 and 35, on this layer, I went up and down once. So let's see if this worked out okay. Perfect. Okay. So that's a way that you can use layers to your advantage. Now, but if you're not used to that, or you haven't planned your scene around doing that, you can get into a little bit of trouble. You can just kind of get things a little bit too confusing, especially if you're doing animation layers for multiple objects. Because what you'll find sometimes is I included too many objects or controllers on this animation layer. And then you run out of control. So if it's like, I would suggest like sort of doing like no more than like a certain amount of parts. So like your spine. So if you have like 3 controls in your spine, like that's as many as you'd want to do. You wouldn't want to make an animation layer that muted like your entire upper body. I don't think. Because if it's like a movement where you're just like turning your spine and you're doing some gestures with your hands, you want to be able to break that up per like sort of like part as well. Like for instance, if the person's walking and they turn and then they go, I don't think so, and then they turn back, right? The muting of the entire walk cycle from like the waist upwards is going to affect everything. So if their arms are in that layer and you mute it, then you're going to have to smoothly somehow pick up that arm movement in that new animation layer, right? Because you were just trying to mute the torso first. Okay? You see what I'm getting at? You were just trying to mute the torso so that he could turn and still keep on moving his arms and then do a gesture. right? But if you mute everything, you're going to have to figure out how to get those arms still moving while he's turning. All right. So if you had a new animation layer for the like for the 3 spine controls, good, and then for the left arm and right arm together, maybe. But I would probably do it left arm is one and right arm is one as well. So all of a sudden we have 6 layers now, right? Because you have your base animation layer, you have to extract the spine, you have to extract the left arm and the right arm, then you need a new layer for 3 new layers, 1 each for the spine, the left arm, and the right arm. Actually, you have 7 layers. Base animation layer, the 3 extracted layers, and now the 3 new layers that have that animation that's happening, and then you're muting it all and going back to whatever was happening down here. You see how it can kind of get a little out of control? If you're not used to working that way, you might lose control. But it's workflow. It's all workflow. It's all fun. So if you're the experimenting type, which I hope you are by now, maybe give it a shot and see how it works out for you. That was a fantastic question. Thank you for sending it in. That's the address to send your questions into. I love getting them. I love receiving your questions. It's a joy to do this. I'm Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.